Proverbs about self-discipline. The man who waits for roast duck to fly into mouth must wait very, very long time. A man who works and not of deeds is like a garden full of weeds. And God gives the nuts, but he does not crack them. There is no luck except where there is discipline. Between saying and doing, many a pair of shoes is worn out. It is the same life whether we spend it crying or laughing. A person always breaking off from work never finishes anything. Tomorrow is often the busiest day of the week. Looking for value in life or motivation, inspiration to value yourself can help you stay focused on your goals. Remain. What is of true value of money in your pocket? Indeed, what is value and what does investment value, and what does business really mean? To answer these, probably the most common perception is that addiction refers to the drug or alcohol, but this, in the simplest terms, successful men and women are those who work almost all the time on high value tasks. Unsuccessful men and women are like those who waste their time wasting the minutes and hours of each day on low value activities. People commonly overestimate how far they can get in a year, but grossly underestimate how far they can get in 5 years. It's actually want results. Make a 5 year commitment to a particular path, like building an online business, development your social skills, becoming a world traveler. Less a commitment is life's least pointless. Our journey of 1,000 miles begins in a single step. It is better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles. If the victory is yours, it cannot be taken from you, not by angels or by demons, heaven and hell. For a man to conquer himself is the first and noblest of all virtues. What it lies in our power to do, it lies in our power not to do. Rule your mind or it will rule you. Practice yourself for this heaven's sake in little things and then proceed to greater. No evil propensity of the human heart is so powerful that it may not be subdued by discipline. Discipline is about making your own life under control. Discipline is not about pleasing other people. By being disciplined, you take your own fate in your own hands. And finally, from seek discipline and find your liberty. I am indeed a king because I know how to rule myself. Serving one's own passion is the greatest liberty. There is little that can be withstand a man who can conquer himself. Self-discipline is that which next to virtue truly and essentially resists one man above another. If you once turn on your side after the hour at which you ought to rise, it is all over. Bolt up at once. Circumstances are beyond human control, but our conduct is in our power. Most people will sooner die than think and act. In fact, they do so. To read a newspaper is to refrain from reading something worthwhile. The first discipline for education must therefore be to refuse to resolutely to feed the mind with canned chatter. Looking for value in life or motivation and inspiration to value yourself can help you to focus on your goals. Remain. What is a true value in your pocket? Indeed, what is value and what does investment mean? The best years of your life are the ones in which you decide your problems are your own. You do not blame them on your mother, the ecology, or the president. You realize that you control your own destiny. Most of us don't mind doing what we ought to do when it doesn't interfere with what we want to do. But it takes discipline and maturity to do what we ought to do, whether we want it or not. Seek freedom and become captive of your desires, self-discipline, and find your liberty. The only discipline that lasts is self-discipline. It was character that got us out of bed, commitment that moved us into action, and discipline that enabled us to follow through. Unless you change how you are, you will always have what you have got. It's not work that is hard. It is a discipline learned from the past. Set repetitive goals for the future and live in the only moment of time over which you have control now. A disciplined mind leads to happiness, and an undisciplined mind leads to suffering. Lack of discipline leads to frustration and self-loathing. Talent without discipline is like an octopus on roller skates. There is plenty of movement, but you never know if it's going to be forward, backward, or sideways. If you dedicate your attention to discipline in your life, you become smarter. If everything seems under control, you are not just going fast enough. People create their own success by learning what they need to learn and then by practicing it until they become proficient at it. Do not let circumstances control your first. Reform habits and then deform us. Conquer your bad habits or they'll conquer you. I've had to learn to undiscipline myself that I much have happier and much less depressed if I give myself a project. It's that simple. A more disciplined you become, the easier life gets. Once you have committed, you need the discipline and hard work to get you there. Life without discipline is like a ship without rudder. The most powerful control you can ever attain is to be in control of ourselves. It's not the work that's hard, it's the discipline. Opportunity may not only once, but temptation leans on the door. You change your circumstances, rule your mind, or it will rule you. The first and the best victory is the self-conquer. Self-discipline is an act of cultivation. It requires you to connect today's action to tomorrow's result. There is a season for sowing, a season for reaping. Self-discipline helps you know which is good. Everybody starts at the top and then has the problem of staying there. Lasting accomplishment, however, is still achieved through a long, slow climb of self-discipline. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence and is not an act, but a habit. Respect your efforts, respect yourself. Self-respect leads to self-discipline. When you have both firmly under your belt, that's real power. Talent without discipline is like an octopus on roller skates. There is plenty of movement, but you never know if it is going to be forward, backward, or sideways. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. Success is the matter of understanding and religiously practicing specific simple habits that always lead to success. We all have dreams, but in order to make dreams into reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. When form is sufficient, rashness is unnecessary. Self-discipline is the ability to make yourself do what you should do when you should do it, whether you like it or not. Class is an aura of confidence that is being showing without being cocky. Class has nothing to do with money. Class never runs scared. It is self-discipline and self-knowledge. It is a sure-footedness that comes with having proved you can make life. You must also for one of the two things, the pen of discipline or the pen of regret or disappointment. Hold yourself responsible for higher standard than everybody else. So you will never experience and never experience that be a hard master of yourself and be lenient to everybody else. We were of endeavoring to become a great man in the heart. One such attempt in 10,000 may succeed. There are fearful or self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. Simply self-discipline enables you to think first and act afterward. In reading the lives of great men, I found that victory that won over themselves, self-discipline with all them came first. By constant self-discipline and self-control, you can develop greatness of character. Self-respect is the fruit of discipline. The sense of dignity grows with the ability to say no to yourself. Our ultimate freedom is the right and power to decide how anybody or anything outside of ourselves will affect us. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Self-discipline, every worthwhile accomplishment has a price tag attached to it. And the question is always whether you're willing to pay the price to attain it. In hard work, sacrifice, patience, faith, endurance. If you take responsibility for yourself, you will develop a hunger to accomplish your dreams. Discipline is remembering what you want. The best way of your life is the one on which you decide your life is your own. No apologies or excuses. No one lean on, rely on, or blend. The gift is yours. It is an amazing journey, and you alone are responsible for the quality of it. This is the day your life. Wow. Your life really begins. Discipline is the soul of army. It makes small numbers formidable, procures successes to the weak and esteem to all. Discipline is just doing the same thing the right way, whether anyone's watching or not. Discipline is like spinach. You may not care for it yourself, but feel sure it would be good for everybody else. The one thing most difficult than following a regimen is not imposing it on others. Success means having the courage, the determination, and the will to become the person you believe you were meant to be. A mind that is disciplined, controlled, is free within its own pattern. But that's not freedom. The end of discipline is conformity. Its path leads to the known, and the known is never the free. If I had done today what I set out for yesterday, I would be free tomorrow. If we conducted ourselves as sensibly in good times as we do in hard times, we would all acquire the competence. If we don't discipline ourselves, the world will do it for us. If we do not conquer ourselves, we will be conquered by self. If you put off everything till you're sure of it, you'll get nothing done. If you will discipline yourself to make your mind self-sufficient, you will thereby be least vulnerable to injury from the outside. In reading In the lives of great men, I found that first victory that won was over themselves, self-discipline, with all of them came first. In war, resolution and defeat, defiance and victory, magnanimity and peace, goodwill. It's better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles. Then a victory is yours. It cannot be taken from you, not by angels or by demons, heaven or hell. It is not fair to ask of others what you are not willing to do yourself. Self-discipline means deliberately aligning our energy with our values and priorities. Through mental practice, we go on and task before us and let other temptation and distraction pass us by. Self-discipline asks that we endure frustration, disappointment and pain in the service of our goal. It means be willing to push ourselves to the limit of our will and endurance if that is what is needed for success. Self-discipline need not be harsh. It can take the form of the quiet resolve or determination that then directs our choices. It is exacting but is rarely served by our self-critical, self-denigrating. Self-discipline allows us to make use of whatever power and capabilities have been given us to be all that we can do in the service of our dreams. Why is one slave to thought? Why has thought become so important in all of our lives? Though thought being ideas, being the response to the accumulated memories in the brain cell. Perhaps many of us have not asked such a question, or if they have, may have said it is of very little importance. What is important is emotion, but I don't see how you can separate the two. If thought does not give continuity to feeling, feelings dies very quickly. So why in the daily lives or in our grinding, boring, frightened lives have thought taken so much ordinate importance? Your own self, your master. Who else could be? With your self-control, you gain a mastery very hard to find. You gain a master very hard to find. One who conquers himself is greater than the one who conquers 1,000 times 1,000 men on the battlefield. If one harms the innocent, suffering will come in these 10 ways. They will suffer grief, infirmity, painful accidents, serious illness, loss of mind, legal prosecution, fearful accusation, family bereavement of natural loss, or there may be turned down, and after that they may be thrown into the fire of suffering. Wisdom, insight, humility, devotion, self-discipline, compassion. Keep behind and you shall be put in front. Keep out and you shall be kept in. One who was born in the house of warrior, regardless of his rank or class, was acquainted himself with a man of military feats and achievement and loyalty. Everyone knows that if a man is in whole filial piety towards his own parents, he would also neglect his duties towards his Lord. Such a neglect means disloyalty towards humanity. Therefore, such a man doesn't deserve to be called a Simoroid. Constantly observe and study the workings of the ego. Understand it to control and use it. Failing to watch the ego take over the control. We are turning into monkeys under the control of a master of our egos, God and dog. Is it not so much of a coincidence that these very same two words can also be used to describe the extreme states of the mind that every man is capable of? Strive for the one while being wary of the other. Caring, responsibility, love, wisdom, common sense, self-discipline. Parents are role models and guiding, leading and teaching to their own children, but never a maid. Faith, self-discipline, grace, wisdom. Everyone will be old. We must grow old gracefully, whoever we are. Even a person lives heedlessly. His craving grows like a creeping vine. He runs now and here and there, as if looking for fruit. A monkey in the forest. If this sticky and caught his craving overcomes you in the world, your sorrows grows like wild grass after grain. If in the world you overcome your uncaught craving, hard to escape sorrows roll off you like water beads off a lotus. Wow. We must live with dignity when we exist. Wish I am free from barriers when I die, and Buddha will welcome me from far away. If you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? Without mindful awareness, the shadows of your past may haunt your present. With mindful awareness, negative self-judgments make an excellent reference point of who you are not. An alcoholic knows no boundaries. Experience is tough teacher because she gives the first test first and the lesson after. There are Chinese proverbs that say, wisdom is avoiding all costs that weaken you and embracing those that strengthen you. Your mind is like a Ferrari. It is awesome, but if you put sand on the gas, it won't run. Don't put sand negativity on your mind. Think positive, encouraging, uplifting thoughts, and the negativity, never put it. Reading all the quotes in the world won't make you or me into Plato, Gandhi, or Einstein, just like watching hundreds games of soccer won't make you a soccer player, or taking a yoga class will make you a yogini, or reading golf about will make you a golfer. You need to put knowledge to practice, and that is a challenge. Put it in work for you. Make the effort to follow through. Always remember to take the vitamins, your vitamins. Take your vitamin A for action, vitamin B for belief, vitamin C for confidence, D for discipline, vitamin E for enthusiasm. Stop searching the world for treasure. The real treasure is in yourself. Gracie, don't give up, Blanche. Women, don't do that. Look at Betsy Ross, Martha Winston. They didn't give to look at Nina Blanche Morton, Nina Jones. I have never heard of her either because she gave up. Time is the greatest thief in life. The primary and best education start from family. The most fatality in human nature is greedy and selfish. The earth is getting very sick day by day, but the human minds are 1,000 times sicker than it. You yourself are only healer. The dolls is not hindrance. The greatest hindrance in life is dolt and sloth. The country has no future without freedom and justice. Hope to see a better human nature on earth. Nothing is difficult when one can overcome with it. No matter what you believe in or you believe in nothing, still you should put your heart in the right place and have the sense of justice. It is a human fundamental. Need to be smart by existing, need to be wise by living. Don't wait, don't waste, don't tarry until the flowers are gone away. Character determines destiny. All I want to live in real for once, just not just to exist. A divinely brilliant life has no regret when death comes along, as you say. Yes, I am well prepared. To eat meat is just a habit after we were born. In fact, we are not born to eat meat. The easiest beneficence is a smile. The simplest release is to have a vegetarian meal. Once the life for by cause and consequence, explore the life by wisdom. Treat the life by equality. Complete the life's love. Karma grows from our heart. Karma terminates from our hearts. Health is the first benefit, content is the first fortune, friendliness is the first kindness, network is the first happiness, doing the good deeds is the grass of the garden. You don't see its growth, but it does by days. Doing the wicked deeds is like the horn. You don't see its damage, but it does for by days. Justice has long arm. Buddha is in our hearts, Buddha is in our mouths, Buddha is in our daily lives. Besides the respect of the lives of human beings, all the animals in the plant should be on the list too. That is the reason humanitarianism. You can destroy your now by worrying about tomorrow. You should never go to a meeting and make a telephone call without a clear idea of what you are trying to achieve. Build, therefore, your own world. As far as you confirm your life to the pure idea in your mind that will unfold its great proportions. Inner quiet attended by stubborn self-renouncement is one of the hardest ingredients of spiritual life. To be effectively detached, that is a power. That is a wisdom, that is the love greater than the emotional love, a love born of understanding. God is all and I am nothing. And take the path less beaten. Touch is sacred, and more sacred something is, the less you do it. It is by avoiding such indulgence that such weariness does not arise. To set out on any holy purpose and die along the way is to succeed. Die while alive and be completely dead, then do what you will and all will be gone. Even as fire finds peace in its resting place without fuel, when thoughts become silence, that soul finds peace in its and mind should be kept in the heart as long as it does not reach the highest end. This is wisdom and this is liberation. All human evil comes from this man's being unable to sit still in the room. He who has taken the five fetters, lust, hate, delusion, pride, and false values, is one who has crossed the other shore. Every form of addiction is banned, no matter whether it's an narcotic, by alcohol, morphine, or alcoholism. And what is grasping? There are four: grasping for senses pleasure, for speculative use, for rights and custom, and the delusions of selfhood. Synchronicities, epiphanies, peak, and mystical experiences are all cases in which creativity breaks through the barrier of the self and allows awareness to flood through the whole domain of consciousness. It is the human mind operating for the moment. It is pure order and moving through orders of increasing subtlety, reaching past the sound of mind and matter integrated in itself. The mind is like a tofu. By itself, it has no taste. Everything depends on the flavor of the marinade it steeps in. At no time are we ever in such complete possession of a journey down to its last nook and cranny as when we are busy with operations for it, preparations for it. After that, there remains only the journey itself, which is nothing but the process through which we lose our ownership of it. If we cannot stop the mind that seeks after fame and for profit, he will spend his life without finding peace. The students today should live fully every moment of time. This dew-like life fades away. Time speeds swiftly in this show life of ours. Avoid involvement in superfluous things and just study the way. When you do something, you should turn yourself completely like a good bonfire, leaving no trace for yourself. The fear of anything is the fear of death. The fear of death is the same as the fear of life. You cannot live fully until you're willing to die fully, and you cannot fully die until you're willing to meet the fear of death. If you really meet the fear of death and you are at peace, you recognize what cannot die. To me, death is not suicide, nor is the least dangerous. To me, seems dangerous. What is dangerous? What is living suicide? It is to live life in the bondage of the belief that you are limited to the body or mind or anything. As long as you resist the fact of death and hide from death through the tricks of the mind, you suffer. The true way goes over the road, which is not straight at any great height, but just above the ground. It seems more designed to make people stumble than to be walked upon. What is this true meditation? It is to make everything: coughing, swallowing, wearing the arms, motion, stillness, worse action, the evil and the good, prosperity and the shame, gain and the loss, right and wrong into one single cone. There are far between and few, I bet, way we can look upon our lives without regret. Of all the things I've done, you think I'm proud of everyone without exception? Until you make your peace with yesterday, you will never find the future. I swear by what I say, whatever pronounce you to decide what is what to you and then respect it, however long it will take to whether your mistakes why not accept it. Would the boy you were be proud of the man you are? A bigot is a person who makes an idol of his commitments. Inside without action is useless. You inspire the great things. Begin with the little ones. Man must evolve. For all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Fundamentally, what everyone needs is mental strength and confidence to manage the mind just as we manage the outside world. Self-realization is finding that which is beyond even superconsciousness itself, beyond the mind, timeless, causeless, spaceless. Prudence, discernment, intention, self-discipline. We believe it's saying not to thousands of projects so that we can really focus on the one that are really important and meaningful to us. Organized greed always defeats disorganized democracy. That rightful on the while of the laborers' cottage of working class flat is a symbol of democracy. It is our job to see that it stays there. I have learned through bitter experience. The one supreme to conserve my anger, and as heat conserved is transmitted into energy, even so our anger control can be transmitted into a power. I went to the woods because I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I see if I could learn what it had to teach and not. When I came to die, I discovered that I had not lived. On the plains of hesitation bleached the bones of the countless millions who at the dawn of the victory sat down to rest, and their resting time. Longing to is the core of mystery. Longing itself insecure. The only rule is suffer the pain. Your desires must be disciplined, and what you want to happen in time sacrifice. Self-respect is the fruit of discipline. The sense of dignity grows with the ability to say no to oneself. Those who make channels for water control control the waters, make uh, of arrows, make arrows as straight. Carpenters control their timber, and the holy control their souls. Wow. Each day look into your conscience and amend your faults. If you failed in this duty, you will untrue to the knowledge and reason that are within you. You keep a watchful eye over yourself as if you were your own enemy, for you cannot learn to govern yourself unless you first learn to govern your own passions and obey the dictates of your conscience. Don't believe everything you think. Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who overcomes his enemies, for the hardest victory is the victory over self. Some people regard discipline as a chore. For me, it's a kind of body that sets me free to fly. You can chain me, you can torture me, you can even destroy this body, but you can never imprison my mind. If we can look upon our work not for self-benefit, but as a means to benefit society, we'll be practicing appreciation and patience in our daily lives. Pray as if everything depended upon God, work as if everything depended on you. We should every night call ourselves on an account. What infirmity have I mastered today? What passions oppose? What temptation resisting? What virtue acquired? Our vices will abort of themselves, as it may be, if they are brought every day to the shrift. Virtues are required through endeavor, which rests wholly upon yourself. So to praise others for their virtues can encourage one's own efforts. The shortest and the surest way to live with honor in this world is to be in reality what we ought to, what we would appear to be, and if observe, we shall find then all virtues increase and strengthen themselves by the practice of them. Self-discipline, serenity, focus, mindfulness. When the senses are stalled, when the mind is at rest, when the intellect wavers not, that say the wise is the highest way. This calm of the senses and the mind has been defined as yoga. When it attains it is free from delusion. The mind acts like an enemy for those who do not control it. To live is to choose what to choose. We must know who you are and what you stand for, where you want to go and why you want to go there. Acceptance is such an important commodity. Some have called it the first law of personal growth. When you don't lose the lesson all the time. Don't settle. Live with passion. Discipline is the soul of the army. It makes small numbers formidable and procures success to the weak and esteem to all. Discipline is a symbol of caring to a child. Discipline is guidance. If there is love, there is no such thing as being too tough with a child. No evil propensity of the human heart is so powerful that it may not be subdued by discipline. Man must be disciplined, for he is by nature raw and wily. That discipline which corrects the eagerness of the worldly passions, which fortifies the heart with virtuous principles, which enlightens the mind with useful knowledge and furnishes it to matter of enjoyment from within itself, is of more consequence to real felicity than all the provisions which we can make of the goods of fortune. Some people regard discipline as a chore. For me, it is a kind of order that sets me free to fly. Nothing can be more hurtful to the service than the man of neglect of discipline, for that discipline more than numbers gives one army the superiority over another. Discipline is just giving the same thing the right way, whether anyone's watching or not. Discipline is finding fire by which talent becomes ability. The greatest influence of discipline is to impress the weakness which grows out of individuality. At its best, discipline is a form of teaching inner control. It's reasonable, orders are easy enough to obey. It is capricious, bureaucratic, or plain idiotic demands that form the half of discipline. Self-discipline is a free man's yoke. Discipline in its highest notion is not punishment or self-punishment. It is rather something seminal to the self. It is foundation. It is architecture. It is our structure. It allows us to speed our energies out and pull our back, and ultimately any type of discipline is flawed because it keeps a person who's being disciplined inept. As long as the experience is happening to you while it is imposed on you, it is not your trained self. When discipline is administered externally, the participant is dependent on the administrator of the discipline. When discipline is administered internally the athlete becomes a victim of the structure of the discipline. Either way, only the discipline, not the dream, is being pursued. Discipline is important simply because we live in an organized society where we have not learned life's requirements at early age. We will be taught later, not by those who learn tempers the lesson, but by strangers who could not care less about the harm they do to your personality. So far as discipline is concerned, freedom means not his absence but the use of higher and moral, more rational forms as contrasted with those that are lower and or less rational. A free discipline controls the individual by appealing to his reason and conscience and therefore to his self-respect, while an unfree control works upon some lower phase of mind and so tends to degrade him. It is freedom to be disciplined in as rational a manner as you are fit for. A person's attitude towards discipline is a measure of that person's own orientation in order. Discipline is learning what to do it, when to do it, what matter it should be done. For the armed forces, discipline is a standard of personal department work requirement, courtesy, appearance, and ethical conduct that will enable all to perform the mission with optimum efficiency. Discipline must come through liberty. We do not consider an individual disciplined only when he has rendered artificially silent as impure and as immovable as a paralytic. He is an individual annihilated, non disciplined. When discipline is sown like a good seed, it yields harvest of things that fulfill and satisfy us, things that make us happy and release peace and joy in our lives. Discipline is like spinach. We are not care for ourselves, but feel sure it would be good for everybody else. Good discipline is more than just punishing or laying down the law. It is liking children and letting them see that they are liked. It is caring enough about them to provide good, clear rules for their protection. The one thing more difficult than following a regimen is not imposing it on others. If you will discipline yourself to make your mind self sufficient, you will thereby be least vulnerable to injure from it. Seek freedom and become captive of desire. Seek discipline and find your liberty. Discipline strengthens the mind so that it becomes impervious of the corroding influence of fear. To focus on discipline is to ignore the real problem. We will never be able to get students or anyone else to be in good order if day after day try to force them to do what they do not find satisfying. Discipline is necessary to cope the mind. Otherwise, there's no peace, there's no merit in discipline under ideal circumstances. I'll have it in the face of the death or it's useless. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. In reading the lives of the great men, I found that the first victory they won was over themselves. Self-discipline of them came first. With self-discipline, most anything is possible. Theodorus will rule your mind or it will rule you. There is no shortcut to any pleasurable going. The ability to make yourself do what you should do when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. We all have dreams, but not to make dreams comes in reality. It takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. Approaches for little if it does not break its altar. Mastering others is strength, mastering yourself is true power. Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. Happiness of a man in this life does not consist in the absence but in the mastery of his passions. He who cannot obey himself will be commanded. That is the nature of living creatures. Govern thyself, then you will be able to govern the world. Self-discipline begins with the mastery of their thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. Simply self-discipline enables you to think first and act afterward. Respect your efforts, respect yourself, self-respect leads to self-discipline. When you have both firmly under your, that's real power. Talent without discipline is like an octopus on roller skates. There's plenty of movement, but you never know if it is going forward, backward, or sideways. Discipline really means our ability to get ourselves to do things that when we don't want. By constant self-discipline and self-control, you can develop greatness of character. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Ultimately, the only power to which man aspires is that which he exercises over himself. Self-respect is the root of this self-discipline. The sense of dignity grows with the ability to say no to yourself. Discipline really means our ability to get ourselves to do the things that we don't want to. I count him braver who becomes his desire than him who conquers his enemies. For the hardest victory is over self. When the fight begins within himself, a man's worth something. The best man for you to hold your tongue is the time when you feel you must say something or bust. I'm indeed a king because I know how to rule myself. Talent without discipline is like octopus and roller coaster. It's not enough to have great qualities. We should also have the management of them. A man without decision of character can never be said to belong to himself. He belongs to whatever can make him captive of him. Beware of endeavoring to become a great man in a hurry. One such a 10,000 may succeed. These are fearful odds. Let me remind you that it's only working with an energy that is almost superhuman and which works uninterested spectators like insanity that we accomplish anything worth the achievement. Work is the keystone, a perfect life. Work and trust in God. Nothing is more harmful in the service than to neglect of discipline. From that discipline, more than number skills, one arm is superiority over another. Mental toughness is many things, or rather difficult to explain. Its qualities of sacrifice and self-denial, also most importantly, it is combined with a perfectly disciplined will that refuses to give in to the state of mind that you could call character in action. If you don't discipline ourselves, the world will do it for us. The successful person has formed the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. Successful people don't like doing things either necessary, but their dislike is subordinated by the strength of their purpose. Only the disciplined are the truly free, undisciplined are the slaves of moods, appetites, and passions. If you discipline yourself today, yours joy will life more tomorrow. Self-control and self-discipline is trained yourself to have the patience to control the conduct of by following the principles and mm, sound judgment instead of impulses or rash desires to act instantly to seek immediate pleasure. Self-control and self-discipline is developing the habit to delay your gratification to see and think through the bigger picture and do what needs to be done to bring you long-lasting success and not just doing what feels good now and is easy. Develop your self-control and self-discipline. Developing your self-control and self-discipline to habitually set goals, establish priorities, implement long-term solutions to problems, and not just quick fixes. And to put some of the things you need to do to accomplish your goals and ignore distracting thoughts and negative emotion is the way of success. Develop self-discipline, self-control to do the things correctly when no one is watching you. I think self-awareness is probably the most important thing towards being a champion. Emotion can be an enemy. If you give into your emotion, you lose yourself. You must be at one with your emotion because the body always follows the mind. He who conquers himself is the mightiest sport. Discipline is the bridge between goal and accomplishment. The least lack of discipline starts to erode our self-esteem. Discipline is a foundation upon which all success is built. Lack of discipline inevitably leads to failure. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. He who controls others may be powerful, but he who masters himself is mighty strength. Delaying gratification is the process of scheduling the pain and pleasure in life in such a way that as to enhance the pleasure by meeting and experiencing the pain first and getting it overwhelmed. Disciplining yourself to do what you know is right and important, although difficult, is a higher to pride, self-esteem, and personal satisfaction. Self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you cannot control what you do. Simply self-discipline enables you to think first and act afterward. The cyclone derives its power from a calm center, so does a person. I have never known a man who worth salt, who is in the long run down in his heart and appreciate the grind, the discipline. There's something good in man that really yearns for discipline. Discipline yourself to do the things that you need to do when you need to do them, and the day will come when you will be able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. Successful of power formula for personal growth book, improve your personal life and workplace performance. I love this book, very detailed with quotes and explanations, strategies to become successful. I have highly recommended the success formula for personal growth. Sure, I'm religious man who is also passionate about conserving the environment, but I'm also a CEO and all the bad habits and attitudes that are natural to this species. I'm still naturally self-interested, overconfident, full of pride, and eager to control the region. Wow. Every day I struggle with my ego. The first and best victory is to conquer yourself. You can never conquer the mountain, you can only conquer yourself. Talent without discipline is like octopus on roller coaster. There's plenty of movement, but you never know if it is going to be forward, backward, or sideways. Competing is exciting and winning is exhilarating. But the true prize will always be by the self-knowledge and understanding that you have gained along the way. It's not enough to have great qualities, you should also have the management of them. A man without decision of character can never be said to belong to himself. He belongs to whatever can make him captive of it. Mountain tops inspire leaders, but valleys mature them. Self-discipline is a form of freedom, freedom from laziness and lethargy, freedom from the expectations and demands of others, freedom from weakness and fear of doubt. Self-discipline allows the teacher to feel his individuality, his inner strength, his talent. He's a master rather than a slave of his thoughts and emotions. There's no difference between living and learning. It is impossible and misleading and harmful to think of them as being separate. Life learning is about trusting kids to learn what they need to know and about helping them to learn and grow in their own ways. It is about respecting their everyday experiences that enable children to understand and interact with the world and their culture. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sit back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. There's no into education. There's not that you read a book, pass an examination, finish with education. The whole of life from the moment you're born to a moment you die is a process of time. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it is stupid. One of my early memories of school is wondering when they were going to start teaching me the things I didn't know rather than what I already know. Many years later, I began to understand how insidiously school had reinforced my inadequacies and had left me with what I now call learned incompetency, a fear of not being able to do the things right the first time. All I'm saying can be consumed in two words: trust children. Nothing could be more simple or more difficult because of the trust children. We must first learn to trust ourselves. And most of us were taught as children that we would not be trusted. Knowledge emerges only through invention and reinvention, through restless, impatient, continuing, hopeful inquiry, human pursue in the world and with each other. I spent 3 days a week for 10 years educating myself in the public library, finding mirrors for myself in hundreds of books. At the end of 10 years, I was completely educated. I had read every product book in the library and I could thousands of stories. When you teach a child something to take away forever, the answer is themselves. Children do not need to be made to learn about the world or show how they want to and they don't know. If we taught babies to talk as more skills about schools, they would memorize books of sound in a predetermined order and practice them and thoughts. A true bubble is when something is overvalued and potentially true. Education may be the only thing people is still believe in the United States. The question education is still dangerous. It is absolutely taboo. It is all telling the world there is no such thing. Children who live surrounded by rules instead of learning about principles and the beginning at the two, taking around rules, finding the loopholes in rules, and disguising not compliance or reflecting them on non-compliance. These are the skills that they bring about in adult life. Wow. Hmm. Uh-huh. Destiny. A tyrant's authority for crime and a fool's excuse for a failure. The destiny of man is in its own soul. There's no chance, no destiny, and no fate that can circumvent and hinder the control, the form, the soul of a human soul. There's no such thing as chance, and what seems to us meet accidents spring from our deeper source of destiny. Destiny has a lot to do with it. But so do you. You have to preserve, you have to exist. One needs his destiny often in the road of he takes to avoid the destiny itself. Is like a wonderful white tapestry in which every thread is guided by an unspeakably tender hand placed beside another thread and held and carried by 100 others. You shape your own destiny. You are not creatures of circumstances, you are the creator of circumstances. You are today what your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow your thoughts take you. There are only two ways to live in your life. One is to nothing as a miracle, the other as everything is a miracle. What is the highest secret to victory and peace? To will what God will and strive to meet with destiny. Our destiny changes with our thought. We should become what we wish to become. Do what we wish to do when you habitual thought corresponds with our desire. As for me, to love you alone, to make you happy, and to do nothing but that which are contrary to your wishes. This is my destiny and meaning of my life. Destiny waits alive for the free man as well as for him enslaved by another mighty. Thoughts lead on to purposes, purposes go forth to action, actions form habits, habits decide character, and character fixes for destiny. A consistent soul believes in destiny, accomplishes one to in chance. Our destiny is greatness, and we must return to its fulfillment. You and I have arranged this was with destiny. Your destiny is my destiny, your happiness is my happiness. The Creator has not given you a boundary to do what you have not which to do. Destiny is something not to be desired, not to be avoided. The mystery, not contrary to reason, for it implies that world and the course of humans we have needs. Destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. The future destiny of a child is always the work of the mother. Some are destined to succeed, some are determined to succeed. Character is destiny. We all have a destiny in accordance with the breadth of our shoulders. My shoulders are broad. More than anything else, I believe in our decisions, not the conditions of our lives that determine our destiny. It is a mistake to try to look too far ahead. The chain of destiny can only be grasped one week at a time. Whatever may happen to you was prepared for you from all eternity, and the implication, of course, was from eternal spinning the thread of your being. The domain of precaution often exceeds the dangers to be avoided. It is sometimes better to abandon oneself to destiny. Dreams are like stars. You never touch them, but if you follow them, you will lead to your destiny only by doing so. Does the person know anything about themselves and destiny? They learn what to do and what to avoid. No trumpets sound with the important decisions of our life for men. Destiny is made known silently. They were seeking out the treasure of the destiny without actually wanting to live out their destiny. A man who has depth in his shame meets his destiny and his delicate decisions upon paths which few ever reach. And when man faces destiny, destiny ends. The man ends and man comes into his own. I felt as if I've been walking with destiny and that all my past life had been but a preparation for this hour and this drive. Success is not to be pursued, it is to be attracted by a person to become. You were born to make manifest the glory of the God that's within you. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And you live your own light, shine you unconsciously, give other people permission to do the same. As you're liberated from your own fear, your presence automatically will bless others. Ideas are like stars, you will not succeed in touching them with your hands, but like the seafaring man on the desert of water, you choose them as your guidelines and following them, you'll reach your destiny. There's a destiny which makes us brothers, none gives its way alone. All that we need into the lives of others come back into our own. I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. I believe the destiny of the generation and our nation is the rendezvous with excellence. He that wishes for his fortune is never sure of a dinner. Let us resolve to be master, not the victims of our history, controlling our own destiny without giving way to blind suspicions and emotions. I seldom end up where I wanted to go, but always almost end up where I need to be. The best years of my life are the ones in which you decide your problems are your own. You do not blame them on your mother, ecology president. You realize that you control your own destiny. The law of harvest is to reap more than you sow. Now, sow and act, and you reap a habit. Sow a habit. You reap a character. Sow a character. You reap a destiny. And you don't know which will be the destiny of each one of you. But one thing I know, the only ones among you who will be really happy will be those who have sought it on the way to sun. The past is like a river flowing out of sight. The future is an ocean filled with opportunity and delight and precipice of possibility designed, doom assigned. One God, one law, one element, and one far off divine event to which the whole creation was. The destiny of every creation is bound to the destiny of all others. It's not what's happening to you now or what has happened in your past that determines who you become. Rather, it's your decisions about what to focus on, what things mean to you, and what you are going to do about them that determine your ultimate destiny. It's about destiny to explore, it's about destiny to be a spacefaring nation. Destiny is the prison and chain of the ignorant. Understand that destiny is like the water of the Nile, water before the faithful, blood before the unbeliever. If you don't make things happen, things will happen to you. Out of our belief are born deeds, out of our deeds are born habits, out of the habits grow our character, and out of the character we build our destiny. Every individual has a place to fill in the world and it's important in some respect. Whether he chooses to be so or not. What lies behind us, what lies ahead of us are tiny matters compared to what lies before us, within us. Our problems are man-made, therefore they may be solved by man. A man can be as big as it wants. No problem of human destiny is beyond human beings. Our first journey is to find that special place for us. You and I haven't. This was with destiny. You will preserve for our children this the last hope of a man on earth, and we will sentence them to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness if we fail. At least let our children and our children say of us, we justified our brief moment here. We did all that could be done. Love is our true destiny. We do not find the meaning of life by ourselves and won't we find it then.